Hi guys, welcome to additional notes on the charge of the Light Brigade. It's aiming for the 7, 8 and 9 and it's just going to be quite quick, so get a pen ready. If you haven't done meter before and rhythm, you need to understand that it's got the dactylic rhythm, and that means the rhythm falls away at the end. So you've got half a league, and you can hear that the rhythm falls off. And the reason for the falling rhythm is that the horses are physically falling to the ground and that our men are falling off the horses and dying. So it does have that awful notion of death. I suppose as well as an inevitability about death in this poem, because we obviously, when we read it, we know what's happened. And this notion of the dactylic falling rhythm feeds the idea that when our men return, there will be quite a lot that are missing. Valley of death is big, okay? Now you've got your obvious analysis, so we need to step away from that. So the obvious idea is that our men are trapped in a valley associated with death. But I'm going to take you somewhere else here, and I think, and if I'm wrong that's fine, but remember this is about interpretation, that we can link it to the Valley of Elah. Now very basically, in the Valley of Elah, David fought Goliath. If you don't know about that, Goliath, massive giant, and he was this brave warrior, if you like, and nobody would fight him, and he offered to fight anybody. And David, this little lad, comes forward and says, well, I'll fight him in the valley. Okay, so to go a little bit further then, nobody expected David to beat Goliath, obviously a little boy against a giant, and he catapults him with one stone in the eye. Goliath falls over and then he chops his head off and wins. You're probably thinking, what has that got to do with the poem? Well, the symbolism of the Valley of Elah, biblically, is that it represents something, a place of loneliness, somewhere solitary. Now, yes, our men are together, but there's this awful theme of loneliness linked to the fact that they are in the valley, and this notion that they are struggling to escape, a little bit like David going into the valley to fight Goliath. Also, our soldiers, when they get in that valley, are heavily outnumbered and outgunned, and they become Goliath. Our men were never going to win, if that makes sense. A little bit linked to David. David comes away a hero, our men return a hero. I hope you understand the link that I've made there. But just to give you a little bit more information, and I know the font is small, so please pause. Again, the Valley of Elah has now got a more symbolic meaning, a memorial to death. Absolutely massive when we have memorialised those soldiers for being heroes. It can be knowledge as well, but I think that's the one you need, memorial to death. Then if you want to really look at your 9, and this is a lot of information, so please skip past it if it's no good to you. The terebinth trees surrounded the Valley of Elah, and they are associated with the word solitary. They are symbolic of something solitary. So again, that notion that I was talking about is linked to exactly what grows in the valley. Could you add that into an analysis? Probably. And then, as I say, the terebinth tree growing all by itself in the Valley of Elah is our David, who went out all on his own to fight Goliath. So I hope that is some sort of metaphorical link that you can take to the poem. I've got no text on this slide, which might look odd, but volleyed, thundered and stormed, I think is straightforward. If you need something else to pick, it's this notion that our men are bombarded. Look at thundered as well, it sounds chaotic. And also, if we can't really defend ourselves against the thunder, so again, they're being thundered at with and stormed at with a shot and shell is what it says. And look at those two words. Our men are arguably defenceless in the face of all of the enemy, because we were heavily outnumbered. Mouth of hell, again, we can go massive with this. So if we do the Valley of Elah and we do the mouth of hell, then we look very good. It's a reference to the gates of hell for a start, which is synonymous with the underworld. We want to avoid the obvious, which is personification of the valley. So start thinking about the gates of hell, which are the entrance to the underworld. Now, better again, and this is a lot of information, there was a Roman soldier called Curtius, and he rode his horse into the entrance of hell, trying to close the gates so that nobody would ever suffer going to hell. Again, look at that in terms of our men running in, and this notion that could we have prevented it. And then he unfortunately died in the mouth and the gates of hell. It's exactly what happens to our men. So again, absolutely try and get something like that in to move you away from, no offence, the grade 4 and the grade 5 response. Sundered was interesting because I didn't know what this meant, so I researched it, and it means to split apart. Again, I get this image of our men running in and have been split apart, i.e. the living and the ones that survive and the ones that die, but the notion that they're split apart because they're outnumbered, they've been split apart because there's only 600 of them, and again I think it's awful foreshadowing that we have lost a lot of our men. And left, big one, when it says the 600 left of the 600, and the origin of the word, and I try to get my students to do that, and it's massive here, actually comes from the word weak. So the word left, because this is the weakest side of our body, apparently, as noted there. So straight away left of the 600, yes, they're brave, of course they are. We get horse and hero fell at the end, and honour the Light Brigade, but this idea that what is left of them is a weakened version of who went because we've lost them. So again, look at the origin of that word from the Old English weak, and it goes back to the beginning of the poem, that there's been a blunder and only 600 have been sent. Charge. If you do a bayonet charge, it applies to that as well. Literally charging, obviously the charge of the Light Brigade, the charge of the valley, but the alternative meaning of charge, remember, is to put a price on something. And I see the same for a bayonet charge. Is the price of war our men? Are we being charged through the death and through losing our soldiers? Is that the price that we pay for war? Which is an interesting alternative meaning than just charging forward. And just carry on, I've said that, to the next little bit. Sorry, go back one, my fault. The origin of the word charge as well, which I have to say in bayonet charge as well, comes from to load a cart. So again, isn't this horrible dehumanization of our soldiers, that they're all kind of treated like animals, and some of them are killed and some of them aren't. And again, it's this awful notion of our soldiers risking their lives. And the last thing I'm going to say is, if you add charge to forward at the beginning of the play, it's the orders that are coming from the commanding officers. Charge and forward, and they're both imperatives, and it reminds us that our soldiers follow commands regardless, because it says that they know eventually if they find out that a mistake's been made, and they continue. So that is massive in the sense that they don't turn around, they continue to fight for their country, isn't it? So that was just something very, very quick on the Charge of the Light Brigade. There is a longer video on my playlist, so have a look. Just type Stacey Rain, and massive good luck in your English literature exam.